This podcast is brought to you by sarahraven.com, which is home to everything you need for a truly beautiful and productive garden. You'll also find great and essential gardening kit and stylish, lovely things to have in your house to bring the outside indoors, all inspired by the garden and the house being tied together. There's also plenty of garden inspiration, how-to videos and specialist growing guides. So head over to sarahraven.com today to discover even more. Welcome to Grow, Cook, Eat, Arrange, the podcast of me, Sarah Raven. And today I'm joined by the incredible bridal dress designer, Savannah Miller. And I just want to explain. Hello, Savannah, first
Hello,
of all.
Sarah. How are you?
I'm very well. It's so nice to see you.
Me too.
I just want to explain to everybody why you're here. And it's a sweet story, really, which is that on Instagram, I follow Savannah anyway, and I suddenly saw our dahlias with a lovely picture of Savannah with this massive, massive armful of really curvy, soft, luscious, pastel-y dahlias with a few brights in there too. And not saying they were our dahlias, just saying, look what I've grown, and that sort of pride thing. And of course, that filled me with pride too, because I knew they were our dahlias. And so I was very happy about that. And so I contacted Savannah and said, would she put together not a bridal gown for me or any of my children, but actually a collection of dahlias? And so last year we worked on that together. So we're launching it now in the winter in 24-25. And it's been really lovely to see Savannah, who's a relatively new gardener, just fall in love with gardening. And that's right, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And I've fallen hard. I mean, I've always tried to grow things, but in my old cottage, I only had a little patch where everything was in pots. So I couldn't really get anything going properly. And as you know, dahlias like deep legs, I think we could say.
Yeah.
And so when I moved here 18 months ago to my new house in Gloucestershire, and they had beds up in the top of the garden, I thought, oh, this is my chance. But the soil was sort of like grey dust. And I thought, nothing's going to grow in this. And I just by chance had a neighbour who was moving, and she had an old muck heap that was, it had been going for a good 10 years, I reckon. This stuff was, we call it the black gold. It was just extraordinary. And I took carloads of it in bags, obviously, down to my garden, and it literally transformed the soil. So I put my dahlias in, and I started them off inside because I now know they need to be warm when they first get going. And it's so cold in spring, isn't it? And they just, and then as soon as they went in the ground, they just went completely bananas. So it was amazing. It was like a miracle, and so easy when you have the right soil. It's really interesting.
Yeah. Dahlias, I mean, that is the beauty of them, is they really are easy. And so, I mean, your bridal collections are very sort of sculptural and elegant and not minimal, but they're not sort of froofy in any shape or form. Whereas the dahlias, I'm interested that you select, are quite curvy.
Oh, they're so froofy,
and quite froofy. Yeah.
Well, the collection, incidentally, has evolved over the last couple of seasons, and the work that I'm putting out now, that I've designed since I've been here and since I've been having this intimate relationship with the dahlias, is a lot more froofy, as you say. And there's a lot more floral inspiration, and there's a lot of kind of layering of lace and tulle and chiffon and textural interplay, which really does reflect what I'm seeing in my garden, in that it's that very three-dimensional, very sensual, actually, conveyance of an essence, of a mood. And I think we've always had that in the collection, in that the collection is very minimal and I call it understated elegance, and things are sort of slippy and cut on the bias, and
Yes.
But the sensuality element is always really important to me, and I always say to my brides, I want the husband to have an intimate experience of the dress as well. So when he holds you at the altar, he feels that beautiful soft fabric beneath his hands, and there's this moment that exists only between you that is very sensual and kind of it's multi-sensory, I guess, and that feels really special.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be bringing that in. I'm really looking forward to launching my new collection in the spring, and at the same time as the dahlias, because they're really good friends. So it's going to be lovely.
Oh, that's so good. And so will you explain a little bit about your fashion background and how you got into design and the whole bridal market as well?
I mean, the bridal thing happened by accident, really. I went to Central St. Martin's to study, and I'd always loved making things. From the age of 6, I was knitting on pencils, and I've come from a very creative household. My sister's an actress. My mum's always in the garden and always sewing. And I commandeered her sewing machine at the age of 9 and was like, no, you're not doing it right. Poor woman. But bridal I fell into by accident, because at my first wedding in 2005, when there wasn't Pinterest and Instagram and all this stuff, my sister was dating a very famous Hollywood actor. And it just so happened that the paparazzi had, unbeknownst to us, hidden in the garden of where we were getting married. And we got married outside. And it was, we were young. I was 25. I had flowers in my hair and really big blousy tea roses and delicious. Oh, it was so good. And my husband also wore flowers in his hair. And we had, horses running around, and it was outside, and it was very bohemian. But because we were children, basically, we were sort of young hippies who liked festivals. So we made this wedding very kind of that way. And it just got it, because of the famous man being at the wedding, it got on the front cover of Hello. So somebody approached me and said, oh, I'd love to collaborate with you. Will you do a capsule collection for me? And we did. And I just had no idea about bridal. So I just sort of did white fashion, if you like. And it took off. But having trained at Alexander McQueen, I had a real sense of drama and a real sense of understanding kind of what that more dressy clothing needed to look like, because what I'd been doing up to then had been very casual. So yeah, it was a sort of happy accident, if you like.
How incredible. And where are your brides? I mean, is it totally worldwide, or is it mainly UK?
Yeah, it's weirdly mainly America. So
wow,
75% of my brides are in America, but the rest are, as far-flung as Korea, Japan, Germany, Italy. They're all over the world, which is really lovely. I really love that part of it.
And you also do coats and really elegant, around the bridal dress. You do lots of other stuff too, don't you?
Well, we certainly try. It's less and less popular since COVID. Okay. People are restrained a little bit more with it used to be people would buy 6 outfits from America anyway. Yeah, because they had the kind of, rehearsal dinner and all these things we don't have here in the UK.
Yeah, exactly.
In the States.
Exactly. Gosh, okay. And so then take us through to what you love with gardening. So you've got your design studio and you're working away at that. And then you walk out of the door of the studio, and tell me what your garden gives you.
So I'm very fortunate in that the Painswick Stream runs through my garden. And when I first came to this house, I sort of almost fell on the floor and wanted to hold the earth, and because it felt like a dream come true. It's literally like my fantasy home, this place. And we have this beautiful, it's an old mill. So there's a waterfall in the garden that used to service the mill. So it's incredibly romantic. And the fact that I can garden as well here, and it can be so productive. I mean, the first year I bought plugs because we were late. We only got here in March. So I bought plugs from the garden centre thinking, well, that's 200 quid. I'm never going to get back. And it was insane. It went bananas. And so this year I planted with a lot more space in between my plants, because I had just giant purple sprouting broccolis and things that just went on. And it was so thrilling to be able to tell the children, can you go and pick me a leek? Or could you go and pull up a celery, and then making it for them, and then them having that connection between, oh, you put something in the ground, it grows, you eat it. It's very real. And in a time when everything is so artificial and everything is so digital and they are kind of plugged into their screens, it's just really, really grounding in a very real sense to have that available. And I feel very fortunate that we have that. I really, really count my blessings every day.
How old are they? The 3 kids?
They're 13, 16 and 19 now. But the little one's still very much involved in the garden. And I say the little one, she's 13, but she'll always be the little one.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just the antithesis of rush hour tubes when you've got your face in someone else's armpit. It's so peaceful, and I need it now for my own sanity, because it just brings me back down to earth, literally. And I find it so extraordinarily satisfying, picking armfuls of flowers and giving them to people. And it's just so abundant, especially the dahlias.
Yes.
They're just so voluptuous, aren't they? And generous.
Aren't they? Yeah,
so,
aren't they? And the more you pick, the more they flower.
I know.
So apart from dahlias, what, including edibles, maybe you could give us, I mean, this is really mean because I'm putting you on the spot, but what are your sort of five favourite plants if you were sent to the moon as this poor female astronaut? She doesn't feel poor. She feels very fortunate. I can't think of anything I want to do less than be an astronaut.
No, me neither, thanks. But I hear you.
Not very
I get the
sensible
question.
At all. But anyway, give us your 5.
Definitely roses, and it would have to be a repeat flowering, really highly fragrant, but not dark coloured rose. So something like in the pale pink world.
Yeah.
That was just, gloriously English smelling. I love lavender as well. And I think, to be honest, I plant roses and lavender because they are really easy to maintain and I don't have a lot of time. So I love what they bring. And I'm just starting to learn now about the kind of year-round interest thing, which I just can't get my head around at all. But I've got your book, Sarah. So I'm following it to the letter. I shall be better at it next year. Dahlias, obviously, because they just are literally joy in a plant.
Yeah. And
then the food thing, I would have to include I grew beetroot this year and they were literally the size of footballs at one point. They were just huge.
And still tasty?
Well, no, not as tasty, obviously. I didn't really know about that. Just get them all up and store them. But it was delightful to make cakes with them and, do all kinds of creative things with the beetroot. And I love Japanese anemones as well because they are, again, so easy and so prolific and so kind of feminine and gorgeous. I can't choose 5. I mean, I can just keep going on. Foxgloves, blah, blah, blah. It just...
Okay.
You actually have one called Sutton's apricot.
We do.
And I grew it and it was so brilliant. I wasn't expecting it. I just chucked them in the vegetable patch thinking, they won't come up. And they really did. And they were amazing. And my house is called Sutton's Mill. So we should be planting those again.
Oh, nice. And so if you, I'm sure for you it's quite rare, but if you were to find that you had a Saturday morning, you didn't have people to stay, you weren't having people to dinner, and you had 3 hours, and it was nice weather, let's say in April, what would you do in your garden?
I think by then I would be nurturing the little dahlias and just feeding them and making sure they were coming on and really feeding those roses as well and cleaning up. Fortunately, the people who were here before us planted a lot of hellebores and bluebells in the main flower bed. So there's quite a lot of kind of early spring interest. So I'd probably be clipping back some of the black leaves on those. Yeah. And I generally just kind of get in there as much as I can with the muck. I'm constantly, I mean, it's become my new obsession. Everyone who's like, I'm giving away some manure. Yes, me. And I run up the road and with my bags because it just seems to be magic what you can do when you've got healthy soil. So it's really turned me on to, soil regeneration and general farming and understanding how much better my food tastes when I pull it up out of the ground. It's remarkable. And also quite shocking because you're like, I've just bought that and it's organic and I've paid a fortune and it doesn't taste of anything. So what's going on there?
So true. I bought some beetroot at the weekend and, Adam and I both tasted it and I just took it straight down to the hens. And like you say, it was organic, but they were just totally tasteless. It was like eating red water, which is not a pleasant experience.
No.
So I'm sure the hen's poo today will be very funny colour. But
terrifying.
And then what do you feel, I mean, just linking back to your design and with gardens, I mean, you've said that it's made you layer things more. And do you look and design prints or do you work with people who design print or?
So I don't really use print so much in my casual wear or the bridal, but what we can do obviously in bridal is use lace and really kind of actually have drawn flowers. And this season I've done an organza that has painted flowers on it and they are inspired by my dahlias. So they're these extraordinary hand painted organza sort of flowers onto organza. So when the bride is walking, you can't really see the organza. So it looks like she's sort of being followed by billowing flowers. It's really special. It's really, really special. And we actually designed that for a bespoke bride who came through, who got married in September in Mallorca. It was stunning. Did exactly what I'd hoped it would do.
That sounds so great. And before we end, what's next? What's life got ahead of you? Because I think your husband has a place also, not in Gloucestershire, but somewhere else.
He does. He has a wedding venue in Lancashire called Wyresdale Park, and it's his family home. And he's basically spent the last 8 years renovating it and turning the barns into an amazing wedding venue. And they have accommodation and a big swimming lake where they do kind of all kinds of jolly things. But the exciting thing is we're doing an outdoor ceremony garden. And so I'm helping him at the moment to design the planting scheme for the outdoor ceremony space so that we have year-round interest, which is much, like I said, much harder than I thought it would be. But to keep colour all year. And also, if it's not colourful, to have, all the skeletons left that I'm obsessed with. At my wedding, I had beautiful kind of, what's it called that you're not supposed to touch on the side of the road? It looks like it. Yes, hogweed skeletons, because they really hold their structure. And I had them in my church when I got married to James. And so, we're going to kind of try to plant cleverly so that even in the autumn and winter when things are sort of barren, they're still beautiful and sculptural and all of that. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, how great. And so you split your time between, you're in London a bit for work, you're in Gloucestershire with the children mainly, and then you're in Lancashire where you've got this new project.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, and the children are getting bigger, so less needing for the mum around all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's fun to work with my husband. I'm really enjoying that. It's bizarre that we're both in weddings, but we are. So
yeah, from different ends.
Yeah, exactly.
But then you can have literally, like here, our aim, not necessarily so much now, but used to be that we would have events and we would grow all the flowers and all the food. But the flowers was the unusual thing because lots of people can do the food. And we would cook it all here and arrange it all here so nothing would get into a car or travel in any shape. But you can have all the clothes as well.
Yes, exactly. And that is our plan. We fully plan to have a farm to fork situation and to be growing all the flowers there. It's very heavy clay, so I don't quite know how that's going to affect things. You may end up having to do some raised bed situations. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to getting into it because it's just such a beautiful place. It sits beneath the fells in Lancashire and it's got a much more expansive feeling than Gloucestershire, which is amazing and very cosy, but we're in the sort of basin of a valley here. So it's really a joy to have different landscapes to play with and interact with.
And don't let clay put you off. Because we're on clay. It's fine. You just need loads more. You need loads of the muck, just like you've discovered in Gloucestershire.
Okay, good. And a bit of sand.
Yeah, exactly. And some grit, exactly. Well, it's really, really lovely to talk. And I have loved doing the dahlia collection. And I hope in the spring you'll do a tulip collection as well with us.
Oh my God, I would love to, Sarah. I'll do it all. I'm obsessed. I will garden till my cows come home. And thank you for inspiring me so much and sending us such beautiful plants because they really are, your tubers have just given so much joy to my family over the years. And so, we look forward to many more years of growing your beautiful things.
Thank you, Savannah, and see you soon.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to my podcast, Grow Cook Eat Arrange, with me, Sarah Raven, and this week, Savannah Miller. Next week, we're going right down to earth again, and I'm going to be talking to Emma Marsh from the RSPB because we're coming up to the Great Bird Count, and we want to inspire all of us to make 2025 the year of the bird. I'm partly biased because my husband's got a book coming out, which I'm incredibly excited about because I've read it, about garden and woodland birds, but also about us using birds to bring life and jollity into our lives. And doing the bird count is a really good way of doing that. So I'm going to talk to her about the importance of exactly that. You can find more information, photos and advice sheets on all the plants and recipes we talk about on this podcast by heading to the show notes or at sarahraven.com/podcast.